Zone B, primary school age, the age that I call diaper emancipation. Golly, that was good. When we stopped buying diapers, that was just an awesome day. I just loved it. I call the primary school age, I call Zone B the golden age. Honestly, I don't think it gets any better than that. Your kids are finally able to take care of themselves a little bit. They can get dressed on their own. They are so affectionate and fun to be with. You go on family vacations and they're fun. They whine a little bit about the trip taking long, but it's fun to do stuff with them. They totally need you, and you have so much to teach them. I would say, though, the dilemmas that really make you tired, the dilemma is you need to teach them about obedience. That is the time when they have to learn how to, and Zone A too, the toddler is Zone 2, but it really hits in Zone B. Your word has to be law, and you got to say, as a father, I'm never going to say something twice. I'm going to establish a culture in our home where I will say something one time, and the child needs to respond. If the child learns I can blow dad off and use the standard kid excuse and get away with it, they are acquiring some sick habits. You know the standard kid answer, right? Didn't I ask you to clean up your room an hour and a half ago? I don't know. That works for almost every dilemma. Didn't your mother talk to you about that yesterday? I don't know.
Oh, I don't want to.
Ooh, they throwing down. All right, you look right at them. That you got to nip that right in the bud. That you cannot let that go any farther, and you have to let them know that they have to learn servanthood before they are able to assume command. Jesus taught us that, didn't he? The night before he was going to perform the ultimate act of self-sacrifice and service, he knelt down and washed his disciples' feet because they'd been arguing about leadership. As Pastor John said, they were jockeying for positions in the new regime, the new world order. And Jesus said, you're going to be leaders indeed. In fact, I'm going to give you 12 thrones. You are going to be rulers over all my people. But first you have to learn how to lead. You get down on your knees. Strong will is good, but strong-willed people first must learn how to serve. And you got to insist and not cave and let a strong-willed child dominate the house. James, great observation. You can't even fit a piece of paper between you and your wife as how you're going to handle this. If a strong-willed child sees even a little bit of daylight between the two of you, they will ruthlessly manipulate and pit you against each other. I don't know, why is all bad behavior not need to be learned? I mean, do we have summer camp for lying? I mean, we don't have to work on our kids' lying skills like, hey kid, that lie was pretty good, but man, you could do better, so we're sending you to camp this summer. How do kids learn that manipulation deal? I call that mosquito behavior. You know, mosquitoes do not go to summer camp to learn how to suck blood. Like on day 4, they're already drilling for red gold. And it's like it's in the DNA. It's like your computer coming with its software already on it. You know, and kids already have their evil software, but they're a blank for their good software. We have to download it. And teaching people that defiance is just not allowed in this house. We don't do that here. And you stop it right there, drop what you're doing, because that needs immediate correction. If you let stuff like that slide because you're tired, or say, oh, go talk to your mother, or the mom says, you wait till your father gets home, is not good. Women need to not do that, and we shouldn't push stuff off on them either. I liked what James said. You can take turns, but your attitude and philosophy of dealing with defiance and anger in a child have got to, you and your wife just got to work on that and be like totally tight and together on that. I saw a hand back here. Go ahead. I would agree. And what we really have to be careful of is letting our own irritation or fatigue or anger color this conversation. I had a real learning moment when I was back in my catechism teaching days, because the kids were just really tough to work with. I had a really rocky bunch of kids in our grade school, in those upper grades, who were just pushing back a lot. And so I would correct them, and I would scold them, and I would let them see that I was really disappointed in them, and I didn't like what was going on. And I'd holler at them, and I would give them punishments. And a mom pulled me aside halfway through the school year and said, "They're doing that on purpose because they enjoy watching you get upset." I thought, dang, what an idiot. It's like, boom, it's one of those light bulb moments. And so I turned off the emotion. I'm not going to be your floor show. And the worst it ever got, I never yelled at him anymore. I just said, "I'm really disappointed that you didn't have enough self-respect and enough respect for your God, that you did such a terrible job on a simple assignment." And just dialed the emotional level down. And one of the characteristics of dysfunctional children is that they live in homes where there's a lot of screaming. And that comes from parents who feel weak, and they're afraid and insecure, and the kid rocks their world. And so they lash back. They treat the kid almost as a peer. You are way above them. I don't even care at what age. You are above them. You are their leader, and you are their caregiver. Just do not lose it. Just keep it under wraps. Keep the emotional level down. And even if a kid says something really defiant, like what you just said, "No, I don't want to do that," or "No, I won't," dial it down and don't get upset, because they're practicing. They're looking for the walls of their world. And they may they'll be really happy to know that they've hit a force stronger than they are. And one of the ways you show strength is not by how loud you can yell or how flavorful is the profanity, the adult profanity you can pour out on them. But one of the ways a man shows strength is by insisting calmly of how it's going to go in this house. And then you're going to have to do it again and again. But the upside is, if you persist, that drive in that kid is going to make that kid a superstar in some way. They're going to build a killer business, or they are going to get insane promotions because they have got a nuclear reactor inside of them. And some people just have such an energy level. If we can mentor them as parents to focus this, they're going to kill it in their careers. Asking for why. I think that's, and I liked how you phrased it too. They may or may not know why they're acting that way. It may be that you've missed something. It may be that you listen first and say, "You sure are upset. Why can't you do that?" And have a teach them how an adult deals with stress and conflict. Why are you saying that? Of course this is your job. We all have jobs in the house, and I gave you that job, and I am the job giver in the house. So for you to say no, perhaps you have information that I don't have. Why would you not? And see what they got. But sometimes I think we had a little exploration into temptation and evil coming at us. Sometimes the answer is, I don't know. When Milwaukee was being torn up with riots in 1967, there was a man who lived on Center Street, in a small house on Center Street, that as the arson and looting and the screaming of sirens was going on, and buildings were burning and people were running around hollering and windows were breaking, he got a gun, kicked out his basement window, and started firing out into the street. He killed 4 people and gravely wounded a cop who entered his house to try to stop the shooting, and he shot half the guy's face off. The cop lived. He killed an old woman who was like 80-some years old. He was arrested in that night, horrible nights of melee, and later on he was asked, his name was James Ora Tucker, and they said, why were you doing that? Do you know what his answer was? He said, I don't know. And I think a lot of our kids' bad behavior is irrational. They're being manipulated by the evil one. And so you may or may not find a reason, but insist and be strong. That is that is who we are as men. Our primary defining characteristic that we aspire to, the number one adjective every man has got to feel about himself is, I am, now see if you agree with me, search your own heart. What adjective most do you want said about you and what you most want to feel about yourself on an emotional level? I am strong. Well, close. Capable is strong. I was going to say strong. It's a real simple word. Nobody respects a weak man. We all fear being weak. It's one reason why at your church a lot of men don't like going to Bible study, because they don't like looking dumb. So they stay away from a game they feel they can't win. Maybe they've gone to a Bible study and the pastor asked them a simple question and they froze and they felt like an idiot. Like I said, well, you of course know how many children David had, right? Everybody knows that.
22.
That's right. That's right. Place your bet. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. There was a guy in my church that I asked him why he never came to Bible study anymore, and he said, you asked me a question. Well, I'm supposed to do that, aren't I? But it so embarrassed him, and he felt so small and weak. It snapped his desire to do that again. He didn't want to look ignorant, so he avoided that situation. We need to establish strength, to show strength, and a greater strength than our children. They will not respect us if we let them have their way. And it's not a problem at all to be the one who says no. In case you couldn't all hear that, the importance of praise is one of your jobs. You need to be the leading praiser in your home. God made you physically stronger than your wife. Maybe there's a few of your wives who could lick you, but I bet most of you could whip the old lady pretty good if you chose. And there's a reason for that there's this physical size and strength inequality. That's because you are to be the rock. You're the strong one. And that's why we need to be refueled by the gospel of Christ, of course, because when we, like Peter did, when our rock turns into sand, when instead of Peter, the rock man, we're Sandy, or Mr. Gravel, because we've crumbled, the gospel of Jesus builds us back up again. And then we get back up, and with epoxy and mortar, we rebuild and keep going and grow in our ability to be strong. But God made me not only physically tougher than my wife, I am emotionally tougher than her too, and that's an even greater strength. I got a hunch most of you have a similar situation, that your wife has emotional vulnerability that you do not have. And it's one of the important things to understand the differences between genders so your wife's differentness won't drive you crazy. Satan loves to take every difference between people and then stick a wedge in there and make it an argument issue, instead of seeing it as a complementary thing. It's good that my wife is emotionally weaker than me, because that means she's also more vulnerable and also more open and sensitive to the emotional climate of the house. And her great strength is to dial in to our kids' emotional needs. But she needs me to say no and mean it. She counts on that. Her need, on the other hand, if I can just give you the other side of that, what adjective do you suppose most women most want to feel about themselves? I am, well, I think that's a great answer. I am loved. I think that's really true. Jesus did say, husbands, love your wives. And that is a receiving something that, say, women, if I ask the question, what do women most want to get? I think that's the right answer, love. But if it's an adjective about how I feel about myself, I am, all those are good, they're all true, but at the peak of it, what does our culture most want of women? Beautiful. I just think about this. This isn't a Bible passage. But, well, in a little way it is. I'm going to give you ashes for beauty, God says. Excuse me, beauty for ashes. I got that backwards. I'm going to give you ashes, yeah. The people going to hell are getting ashes instead of beauty. The Christians, the believers, are getting beauty instead of ashes. I challenge you to just think about that a little bit. Our culture is relentless about expectations of how women dress. Look at the enormous amounts of money spent on women's clothing, women's jewelry, makeup, surgical enhancements, hair. You know that 85% of women color their hair? And the other 15% either wish they were or lie about it. They feel judged by how they look. And I don't care what age you are. I don't care whether you're 8 or 80. And one of your jobs is to make your wife feel pretty so that she likes herself. Because an insecure woman who feels I'm being judged, or my husband thinks I'm fat or old or not pretty and he's always looking somewhere else, will destabilize her entire emotional framework. And I hasten to add, at this age, when pregnancy and breastfeeding kind of mess with your body, most women don't feel very pretty at that time. And that's when it's most important for you to lift her up and let her define your standard of beauty, and that she doesn't have to wonder how you think about her.